The internet is a vast space, as we all know, with platforms for people to express themselves, gather and share similar interests. There's a corner of the internet for any interest you might have. But at the moment, one of the biggest online communities is for book lovers. And as niche as that might sound for some, there are thousands of people across YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok who are using their platforms to talk about reading, and millions more across the world who are watching them.
Booktube is a platform like any other YouTube community where essentially we just talk about books. So there could be like subsections of YouTube communities, like gaming communities, like cooking communities. And Booktube is basically just a place where people talk about the thing that they love, which is books.
And then Booktok is kind of a subsection of TikTok. There's different sides of TikTok. So Booktok is the side that's just there to share their love of books of any genre and talk about them, give reviews, make jokes, and just enjoy meeting other book nerds.
So Bookstagram started off as a hashtag. So it was just a way that people would put up a picture of their book and maybe say Bookstagram or something like that. And it was a way that you could find other people that were involved with books and loving reading and all that kind of thing. It kind of really took off, I'd say, in the last like 2.5 years, and it's become like kind of a slight cult following, and people just really love everything to do with books. So if you have reviews, pictures, you're a reader, you're a writer, anything like that, and there's all kind of like sub genres, I guess, in the Bookstagram community.
It's been around for about 10 years, but recently I've noticed it's starting to expand, getting bigger and bigger. So how are people finding out about this community that no one knows about unless you're in it?
I started my channel when I was in my first year of college, and when I was a teenager, I loved loads of just kind of mainstream YouTubers. Like I really liked Emma Blackery, Jack and Dean, like people like that. And I always thought, oh, that's so cool, I want to do that. I wasn't into like music or filmmaking or any of the kind of things that those people seem to be into. And I was like, what do I know about? And I was like, well, I can talk about books. And I didn't even really know Booktube was a sub-community at that point. But once I did, that was kind of it. And now I'm here many years later, still doing it.
Well, it started because I like to read a lot. And then one day I remember scrolling through Instagram and I seen these pictures of this guy's really pretty shelf. And I was like, oh my God, that's like pictures of a bookshelf. And then as I got deeper into his Instagram, I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. And then I clicked on the hashtags. It was like hashtag Bookstagram or something. And then I came across loads of other accounts and I was like, oh my God, I want to do this.
So I first started posting in January of 2019. At that time, there wasn't Booktok as we know it now wasn't a thing. There was maybe like 4 or 5 other accounts who were posting book-related content, but it wasn't really what Booktok has become now. So I had seen some of their videos and I didn't see a lot of people talking about the books I like to read. So I thought I would make some videos talking about mine.
The way these young people are using their creativity to interact and invent new ways of sharing their common interest is actually changing the way people read.
I think the online communities definitely have changed the way people are reading because there's so much more exposure. Like before, unless you were maybe Stephanie Meyer or J.K. Rowling, normal people probably weren't going to hear about your books. But now there's entire fandoms for, I know Sarah J. Maas is still a huge author, but there's entire people who dedicate their book pages to one character. They'll pretend to be that character and that's their persona, and they'll only talk about that and put up quotes about that. So these books that you might not have heard about before are everywhere. And there's a lot more than just the reading side to it as well. So like merchandise and pins and bags and bookmarks, like it's kind of a whole community of products now that you're seeing all the time. Candles is a huge one. I've seen so many companies set up just to promote the smell of what a male character would be like in a certain book. Which is kind of cool, because that's not something that we would have had 15 years ago, you know. So I think there was a reputation maybe for book lovers and the book industry being a bit stuffy, and you know, English majors and libraries and very kind of closed off over there, where now it's like it's on your phone, you know, and you can find someone who loves it just as much as you, and you can kind of bond about it that way. So that's good.
It's not only the way people are reading that has changed because of social media. Publishers and authors are getting in on it too.
Do you think publishers or authors are utilizing the online book communities enough?
I mean, absolutely. I would say that there's a huge push towards using Bookstagrammers to help promote books. For example, Jay Kristoff, who writes Nevernight, and he has a lot of series. He has a new book coming out, and he literally has a challenge at the moment to be able to offer someone it's called an ARC, which is basically a publication of the book before it's on market. So he's offering people the opportunity to win an ARC by promoting the new cover to the book. So it's this way of drumming up you know, desire and interest and all of these kinds of things before the book is even out there. The book doesn't come out until September, you know, but everyone knows about it. It's all over Instagram, you know. People are already making kind of side products for it. You know, these small businesses who, you know, make these bookish products, they're already making things for it. So absolutely, I would say places like NetGalley, they also offer ARCs to Bookstagrammers. Places like Goodreads have competitions to give new books to Bookstagrammers. I just did a post yesterday on a book that just got published on the 2nd of this month. And I've had that book for 3 months, I'd say. I got that book from Bloomsbury YA Publishing. So yeah, it definitely seems to be part of their marketing strategy.
What's your opinion on sponsored reviews?
I'm a bit on the fence about them, because on one hand, I feel like a lot of authors, obviously, they're paying you to review something. They want you to give them a good review. I mean, they don't want to pay you for the review to be bad, because they've wasted their money. Like, so if they're sponsored, it's probably less honest as it'd be if it was a book review that you're getting for free. But at the same time, a lot of publishers they don't sponsor you, but they'll give you the book to review. And with the publisher, I feel like that's fine, because they're giving you the book. They're like, we don't care, we just want your honest opinion. If it's an author, on the other hand, though, like, they want a good opinion. They don't want you coming back to them and bashing their book. So I feel like there's a lot of like, are they really that honest if they're paid?
Yeah, I get
So
what
I
you
have
mean.
seen some readers like bite the bullet and be like, listen, I know, I've stated this in my contacts. If it's a bad review, it's a bad review.
It's often remarked that young people spend all their time on social media, on their phone. They're never outside or reading books anymore. But has this craze possibly done the opposite by introducing people to reading and encouraging them to share their thoughts of books online?
I think it has its ups and downs. There's no way of looking at it. It's not black and white. But I do think it helps more than it hurts. In this case, we're encouraging people to read more. Especially, there's been a big push for people to diversify their reading and to read more than just the straight white books that people have been forced to read for so long. So I think that's an area where it really helps. But I do think it's social media. There's toxicity, there's cyberbullying, there's a whole bunch of downsides to it as well. I think the important part for people who participate in it is to try to focus on the more positive areas, to focus on reading books they love, sharing their love of books, to better themselves as people and as readers, and to try to push aside as much of the toxicity as they can, as hard as it may seem.
You might say, so what is so different about these platforms? Are they not just like traditional book clubs that we all know about, but put online?
And have you ever been involved in a traditional book club?
So I have been in a few book clubs over the years. So at places I've worked at, I've been in book clubs there. At university, we did a book club that was a bit of a twist on the kind of traditional book club format, because rather than all of us reading the same book and then coming to discuss it, we would pick a theme every week. So we might have, for example, fantasy books, and everyone would come to the book club and recommend a book in that category. So it was really easy to like decide to come along last minute, or if you were someone who was a bit anxious, you could plan what you were going to say beforehand. And you didn't have to kind of worry about when you were going to pitch in with a discussion like you might with kind of traditional book club. But I have been in like traditional book clubs in the sense of everyone reads the same book and talks about it at the end of the month or whatever. And it's got that same kind of community reading thing, I suppose.
Is there any similarities or differences between the YouTube book community and a traditional book club?
I think both traditional bookish communities like in-person book clubs and online spaces do have a lot of similarities, in that it's people kind of discussing the same thing that they're reading at the same time. I think one of the really great things about things being online is how accessible that it can be. Like if a book club, like an in-person book club, is, for example, in a village hall, and that village hall is really difficult to get to, you don't have a car, it doesn't have disabled access, they can be all things that would prevent you from joining that physical in-person book club. And obviously we've seen a lot of those book clubs now have to move online because people can't meet up at the moment. So I think, they're the same idea, just through a different medium.
Although this is a global community with the big influencers being from the US, Canada and the UK, there's a strong core Irish group of readers who are connecting because of this and finding friends living in their own county who they may have never have met otherwise.
Are you still friends with people who you've met through it?
Yeah, I would message people on Twitter very much so. Now I'm very, very bad for keeping in touch with people, but yeah, like I definitely keep up with their videos in my newsfeed, and we contact each other like a few times. One of the other Irish booktubers, her previous channel was Fred Weasley Died Laughing, but now I think she's Words of Clover. She messaged me recently to do a little kind of video for an Irish readathon that goes on in the month of March. So I sent her a video to like put things together. She wanted it for kind of a what would you say, a collaboration video. So yeah, every now and again we message each other. Now I don't have a really, really big community. I think the most I had was 1,100 people watching, but definitely would still kind of keep in touch, or at least keep tabs on what they're doing.
Something that has come about because of these friendships is the Irish Readathon, which is a way for people to connect across the world and celebrate their Irishness in the month of March.
I host the Irish Readathon every year, which is all about a month of just reading more Irish literature than you normally would. Sometimes there will be like challenges, things like one of the ones we always do for the Irish Readathon is read a book with green on the cover. Another one we've got this year is read a book that has mythology in it, which are just ways of kind of gamifying your reading in a way, but also just coming together as a community.
And how would somebody who stumbles across a video and wants to get involved, how would they go about doing that?
When it comes to participating with readathons, I think you can get involved as much or as little as you want to, and that's all like completely valid participation. Like when it comes to the Irish Readathon, I've always said, look, if you read one book that is Irish, that you have participated, you've done it. But also if you want to use like relevant hashtags to that readathon, to show off what you're reading, or sometimes there would be like discussions on Twitter or live shows that you can get involved with. you can kind of participate as much or as little as you want with how you interact with it. So there are ways of people getting involved in these types of readathons, even if they're not a creator themselves. Like if you just want to do it completely privately, you can. If you want to post a photo on your Instagram with hashtag the Irish Readathon on it, you can. You can do as much or as little as you want, really.
The newest social media platform today is TikTok. It's known for a place where people dance and make sketches. It might be difficult to think, how do people make content purely based on book recommendations and fit them into 1 minute?
It's a challenge, and I kind of have to accept, like when I'm talking about some books, that I'm not to be able to say everything I want to. So I like to do like recommendation videos, and I want to recommend so many books, but I have to narrow it down. And I also, for each book, have to somehow find a way to summarize it in like 1 to 2 sentences, which is so much harder than I ever thought it would be. So it can be hard to narrow it down a bit, but you just have to figure out what you want to prioritize and what you think other people will want to know the most about whatever you're talking about. So if you're writing a review, you want to know, what do people care about the most when they want to hear what you think about it.
And you do sketches as well that incorporate books.
Yeah, I like to do just funny joke videos just to add some humor with like actual recommendations. I joke, like the joke videos are what get people in, and then I surprise them by just throwing books at them and recommendations. But yeah, so I do those a lot just for fun. It's just something that entertains me when I don't know what to recommend or I don't have a book to review.
On the whole, this is a positive and beneficial side to social media, but it doesn't come without its problems. The way these influencers are changing the way we read can bring some pressure to their followers and even other influencers who feel the need to keep up with their reading.
You mentioned you don't really track your reading. Is that like a
No.
conscious decision, or?
I just think it's not really possible for me. I'm, what's called a multi-book reader. That's just a term that's been made up by people who read books. And basically what that means is that I read multiple books at the same time. So, I mean, currently I think I'm in the middle of 3 or 4 different books, and that's across various platforms. So I have 1 book on a Kindle. I've got 2 physical copies. I've got an audio book that I'm listening to that I was literally just listening to before I started the interview. And even within my audiobooks, I think I've got 2 different books that I'm listening to in the audiobooks, and again, I'm a PhD, so I'm always reading, my research books, and I'm a creative writing PhD. So some of my research books are books, so I'm just constantly reading. But it's also slightly, I feel like there's a lot of pressure sometimes. And I suppose since we're talking about the Bookstagram community, there is sometimes a lot of pressure within the Bookstagram community to kind of show, these are all the books that I read this month. This is what, people track it on Goodreads, and there's multiple different book trackers. And at the end of the year, you kind of always see everyone who's like, oh, I read X amount of books this year, or, whatever. And I personally feel a lot of pressure that, like, how can I call myself a bookstagrammer? How can I call myself a bookworm if I didn't finish, X amount of books this month, So by not tracking it, I just kind of remove that pressure off of myself. If I finish a book, I finish a book, if I don't, then I don't.
Although for most of the people who we've talked to today, this is simply a fun pastime, but it takes up a lot of time, and they spend a lot of time a week coming up with ideas, planning posts, interacting with other users, and posting.
How much time a week would you say you spend thinking about Instagram and what you're going to post?
Like, I wouldn't have an exact time per week. When it comes to like coming up with post ideas and things like that, I do struggle sometimes. I run out, especially with lockdown and restrictions, trying to come up with creative ideas at home or taking pictures in the same park for months on end. I do spend more time doing it than I wish I did. I think a lot of people in Bookstagram for their New Year's resolution for 2021 were saying that they're just going to take a picture and throw it up and not worry so much about filtering and hashtags and all that jazz. But like, it's hard to get out of the habit of kind of perfectionism, which definitely is a downfall with anything, even with BookTok or any of those ones, you know, trying to have it perfect definitely isn't a healthy attitude.
Did anything surprise you when you started doing this?
Oh my God, the amount of time it puts into a video. It takes so long to put a video together, from like just thinking it out in your head. And I'm not one to plan videos. I 100% just decided to like off the cuff film, or like, what am I going to do today? And I would just film 2 videos and then start editing it. But the amount of time it takes to edit, so it's like, it's very, very labor and time intensive. And I suppose that's why I haven't been posting as much recently. I'm in a busy job, so I haven't had the time to actually dedicate into it. But part of that is me being lazy now as well.
With the coronavirus pandemic, we've been in and out of lockdowns, and most people have been home more than they ever have. And I wondered, was this the reason for the growth of the online book communities?
With COVID, have you noticed any difference?
I've actually noticed a lot more people reading actually with COVID, because I feel like they have some more time than they usually will, like especially people working at home. I know for me in general, doing college at home has helped my reading a lot, because I can get my college done in the morning and then I'm kind of free all afternoon really, if I haven't got online lectures. And so I'm spending that time that I'd usually be traveling from college. So I'm spending that time like just sitting at home and reading more. And I've seen loads of people that like didn't usually read, or even like never told me they read anyway, have started reading. And I just find it so fun, because I'm like, tell me all the books you're reading.
It seems that the hidden gem of the online book communities has reached a height that no one saw coming or can explain. So that leaves the question of, where does it go from here?
Do you have any thoughts about the future?
I think Booktube is only going to continue to grow more and more. There's going to be new people that decide to join the community and start making videos. I think for a long time, Booktube was very homogenous. There was a lot of people that looked like me making videos, you know, young white women. But I think the community has taken a kind of long, hard look at itself in the past year and has realized that we need to be like promoting more diverse voices more. So I think we're seeing a lot more of like Black creators getting the credit that they have long deserved. And I think that's one of the ways that Booktube is starting to change and grow for the better. And as we have more diverse creators, ideas are going to get more creative because they're coming from different perspectives. So I think videos are only going to get more creative. I think the community is going to expand. I think publishers are waking up to the importance of people who are reviewing books online. So I think it's only going to get bigger and better, more interesting and engaging and fun.
How do you see this continuing, or where do you see it going from here?
I don't know. I just imagine them. I honestly never imagined it on TikTok particularly to get to where it was now. But I think we can really only go up from here. I think they'll keep growing. I don't know if they'll become as mainstream as a lot of other sides of TikTok, but I do imagine more and more people will keep discovering it, and we'll keep getting amazing new creators, and we'll keep getting people pushing amazing new books. And I'm just always excited to see where it's going to go, because there's truly no predicting the potential of it.